Ysrayl, one nation, Ysrayl, one nation, Ysrayl, one nation. There's only one chosen under Yahuwah. You gotta get understanding in your medulla. He chose the lily out of every single flower. And everybody up water, he chose the river. And he chose a special people. But he turned them over to another people. And they shipped them all around the world. Now they're spreading the gospel around the world. But it's almost over. It's almost over. What you gonna do when they come for you? They've been running it for a while, but they will know you're the chosen one to represent Yahuwah's faith. You have to have a perfect name. I'ma represent for Judah. I'ma represent Levi.
Shalom, 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 shalom.
I'ma represent Zebulun, God and Reuben. I'ma represent Asher, Issachar, Naphtali, Ysrayl, one nation, Ysrayl, one nation, Ysrayl, one nation, Ysrayl, we deserve everything that we
Shalom, 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 shalom. Welcome to the morning brew. Welcome to the morning brew. Good morning on Instagram. Good morning. Welcome to the morning brew. Welcome to the morning brew on YouTube.
They've been running it for a while, but they will know you're the chosen one to represent Yahuwah's faith.
Hope you got your herbal tea, your coffee. It's going to be a good study today. Good morning, group, with your boy, House of B'Nei Ysrayl. We are listening to One Nation Under YAH-Lorvins. One Nation Under YAH-Lorvins. Good morning. Bokatah. Shalom, Donovan MarieYAH. Hallelujah. Shalom to the class. Shalom to my people on Instagram. As you know, I like to start on time. So we are getting ready to begin. Hallelujah. Right after our prayers, we are getting ready to begin the morning brew with your boy, Yosef ben Ysrayl. Hallelujah. This joint is hot though. But let's tone it down a bit. Hallelujah. Welcome to the House of B'Nei Ysrayl, where the chosen of the Most High dwell. We know who we are. We know who He made us to be. And we are rising from the ashes. If you're just joining us, we are doing the book of Jasher. But before that, we want to enter into just giving the Father a word. Hallelujah. How goodly are your tents, O Yaakov, your habitations, O Israel. By the abundant grace, we enter thy house. We worship before thy presence with reverence, O Yah. We love thy abode, the place where thy glory dwells. We worship and bow down. We bend the knee before you, our Maker. We offer our prayer. We offer our studies unto thee, Yahweh. At a time of grace, O Yahweh, in thy abundant kindness, answer us with thy saving truth. Yah Elohim, make the words of thy Torah pleasant in our mouth and in the mouth of thy people, the house of Israel. so that we and our descendants and the descendants of thy people, the house of Israel, may all know thy name and study thy word, thy Torah, for his own sake. Blessed art thou, O Yah, who teaches the Torah to your people, Israel. Hallelujah. 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 So we are on the book of Jasher. If you're just joining us, we are doing the book of Jasher, the book of Jasher. We are on chapter 18. It's been a great journey so far, don't you think? It's been a really great journey so far. So let's begin. And Abraham rose and did all that Elohim had ordered him. And he took the men of his household and those bought with his silver, and he circumcised them as Yah had commanded him. Okay, so let's do a little recap first. So at the end of chapter 17, we saw Yah make a covenant, right? Hallelujah. We saw Yah make a covenant with Abram, telling him he would multiply his seed and that all the males would need to be circumcised. And at that circumcision would be an everlasting circumcision, okay? So that circumcision that he was talking to Abram was going to be an everlasting circumcision. Also, we saw the name changes of Abram to Abraham and Sarai to Sarah. And finally, we saw Yah tell Abraham, his seed shall become a great nation and kings shall come out of him. Now, here in verse 18:1, we see Abraham doing exactly what the Father ordered him to do. And that's exactly what we should do. Whatever the Father tells us to do something, this is exactly what we should do. There shouldn't be any last words or hesitation. Just rise up and do it. Just rise up and do it. Verse 2, and there was not one left whom he did not circumcise, and Abraham and his son Ishmael were circumcised in the flesh of their foreskin. Ishmael was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. So everybody in his entire camp was circumcised, from the men he brought down to Ishmael. Okay, they were all circumcised. So this includes those who were not from the family of Abraham as well. Could you imagine the pain of being circumcised in your flesh as a grown man or a preteen? People cry about spiritual circumcision and getting rid of things that don't belong in their life. So can you imagine about crying when you're grown and happen to be circumcised? Verse 3, and in the third day, Abraham went out of his tent and sat at the door to enjoy the heat of the sun during the pain of his flesh. You hear this? During the pain of his flesh. The Most High called them ministering. Actually, hold up. Let's read verse 4. And Yah appeared to him in the plain of Mamre and sent 3 of his ministering angels to visit him. And he was sitting at the door of the tent, and he lifted his eyes and looked and saw 3 men were coming from a distance. And he rose up and ran to meet them. Even in pain, he rose up and he ran to meet them. And he bowed down to them and brought them into his house. Okay, and he bowed down to them and he brought them into his house. Good morning, good morning, good morning. The Most High called them ministering messengers. Hallelujah. Shalom, shalom. The Most High called them ministering messengers. How awesome is it? How awesome is it for the Most High to come and visit with you, especially in your moment of pain? Abraham saw 3 men coming towards him. So these ministering angels or messengers were in the form of men. Hebrews 13:2 says, be not forgetful to entertain strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares. Abraham once again rose up. He rose up and he ran to them. He reverenced them and he brought them into his home. Verse 5, and he said to them, if I have now found favor in your sight, turn in and eat a piece of bread. And he pressed them and they turned, and he gave them water and they washed their feet and he placed them under a tree at the door of the tent. Verse 6, and Abram ran and took a calf, tender and good, and he hastened to kill it and gave it to his servant Eliezer to prepare. So they ate with Abraham. They drank water, which they are afforded to do when transformed into a human vessel. You know what I'm saying? They cleaned the desert sand off their feet, and Abraham took them to the sunroom. You know what I'm saying? He kind of took them to the sunroom, which had some shade under a tree. All right. This is Southern hospitality at its finest. We're seeing Southern hospitality at its finest. Bread, water, and maybe some stewed goat or some curry goat. You know, Abraham was pulling all the stops here. All right. Hallelujah. Shalom, shalom. Shalom, shalom. Verse 7. And Abraham came to Sarah into the tent, and he said to her, make ready 3 measures of fine meal quickly, knead it, and make cakes to cover the pot containing the meat. And she did so. And Abram hastened and brought before them butter and milk, beef and lamb, and gave it before them to eat before the flesh of the calf was sufficiently done, and they ate. And when they had done eating, one of them said to him, I will return to you according to the time of life, and Sarah your wife shall have a son. And Sarah your wife shall have a son. Now they could have already been coming to give Abraham the good news, but if they were there to first see how he treated them and received them, Abraham passed with flying colors. This is why it's so important for our spirit to be circumcised, for our spirit to be circumcised and our hearts in the right place. Don't miss your blessing because your heart isn't right. Did you hear what I said? Don't miss your blessing because your heart isn't right. Because we're going to see this down the road in this story. Okay, let's continue. And when they had done eating, one of them said to him, I will return to you according to the time of life, and Sarah your wife shall have a son. And the men afterward departed and went their ways to the places to which they were sent. In those days, all the people of Sodom and Gomorrah and of the whole 5 cities were exceedingly wicked and sinful against Yah, and they provoked Yah with their abominations, and they grew mightily in abominations and scoffing before Yah. And in those days, their wickedness and crimes were great before Yah. Does it sound familiar to you? Today, the world is doing the exact same things as Sodom and Gomorrah and trying to make it legal. You hear what I'm saying? Bad is good now, and good is bad. Prayers were taken out of schools. Homosexuality and gay marriage was made legal. They're trying to make pedophilia legal. Sleeping with multiple partners that aren't their husband or their spouse is no longer frowned upon. Pastors and false prophets are robbing people blind while promising blessings and giving nothing back. They blaspheme the Father's name, worship idols, and lie about history. They're trying to do away with the Most High's laws, statutes, and commandments so they can live however they want to live. We see this very same thing that happened here in Jasher, verse 11, happening today. Verse 12. And in their land, they had a very extensive valley, about half a day's walk. And in it, there were fountains of water and a great amount of greenery surrounding the water. And all the people of Sodom and Gomorrah went 3-4 times in the year with their wives and children and all belonging to them. And they rejoiced with them there with timbrels and dancing. Now watch this. And in the time of rejoicing, they will all rise and lay hold of their neighbors' wives. Did you hear that? They will all rise up. They all rise up and lay hold of their neighbors' wives and some of the maiden daughters of their neighbor, and they enjoined them. And each man saw his wife and daughters in the hands of his neighbor and did not say a word. Watch how the commandments take full effect here. Watch how the commandments take full effect here. These very orgies are at the top of the list as being against the Most High's words. Okay, so 4 times in a year, they went to this oasis to have one big sex party. All right, let's look at 2 of the 10 commandments. Commandment 6: thou shalt not commit adultery. The 6th and 9th commandments honor human sexuality. This commandment forbids the physical act of having immoral sexual activity, specifically adultery, which is sex with someone else's spouse or a spouse cheating on their partner. This commandment also includes fornication, which is sex between unmarried people, prostitution, pornography, homosexuality, group sex, rape, incest, pedophilia, bestiality, and necrophilia. Okay, we already see it. They was already breaking the commandments. All right. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. Let's not forget that. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. All right. The 9th commandment forbids the intentional desire and longing for immoral sexuality. All right. To sin in the heart, Yeshua says, is to lust after a woman or a man in your heart with the desire and will to have immoral sex with them. All right. Just as human life is a gift from Yah and needs to be respected, defended, and protected, so too is human sexuality. All right. Hebrews should regard human sexuality as a divine gift. So it's considered sacred in the proper context of marriage. All right. Taking part of these nasty orgies, these nasty rituals 4 times in a year, they couldn't have possibly known whose kids was who. You understand what I'm saying? They couldn't have possibly known whose kids were who. All right, let's continue. Let's continue to read. Verse 12. And in their land they have, okay, I'm sorry. We're going down to verse 14. And in the time of rejoicing, they will all rise and lay hold of their neighbor's wives and some of the maiden daughters of their neighbor. And they enjoyed them, and each man saw his wife and daughter in the hands of his neighbor and did not say a word. And they did so from the morning to night. And afterward, they returned home, each man to his house and each woman to her tent. So they always did 4 times in the year. Also, when a stranger came into their cities and brought goods, which he had purchased with the view to sell, the people of these cities would assemble, men, women, and children, young and old, and go to the man and take his goods by force, giving a little to each man until there was an end to all the goods of the owner, which he had brought into the land. We see him here breaking another commandment. Okay. Shalom, 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 shalom. We see them here breaking another commandment. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not steal. This is the breaking of the 7th commandment. This is the breaking of the 7th commandment. The 7th and 10th commandments focus on respecting and honoring the possessions of others. Okay. This commandment forbids the act of taking someone else's property. All right. Hebrews believe that this commandment also denounces cheating people of their money or property, depriving workers of their just ways. Okay. These all fall under the same part. Embezzlement, fraud, tax evasion, vandalism are all considered extensions of violations of the 7th commandment. All right. Do y'all hear me? Verse 17. And if the owner of the goods quarreled with them, saying, what is this deed which you have done to me? Then they would approach to him one by one, and each would show him the little which he took and taunt him, saying, I only took that little which you gave me. And when he heard this from them all, he would arise and go from them in sorrow and bitterness of being. Then they would all arise and go after him and drive him out of the city with great noise and tumult. This was just a purely evil city. Okay, so they wasn't just, having sexual orgies, but they were robbing, stealing, killing people. They were doing a lot of just breaking the commandments. I don't even know how to say it. They've just been breaking the commandments all together, all around, all 10. And the Father said it was time to destroy them. Okay. Judgment was coming. All right. And there was a man, verse 18, and there was a man from the country, and watch this, y'all. And there was a man from the country of Elam who was leisurely going on the way, seated upon his donkey, which carried a fine blanket of dyed colors. And the blanket was bound with the rope on the donkey. Now, if you were on my Instagram page, you saw I posted something about Shem the other day. I posted about Shem the other day and about Elam and about Asher. Okay, so if you're on my Instagram page, check that study. It's just brief, but it's definitely going to bless you. And it ties in to right here. Okay, and there was a man from the country of Elam who was leisurely going on the way. Seated upon his donkey was carried a fine blanket of dyed colors, and the blanket was bound with the rope on the donkey. And the man was on his journey, passing through the streets of Sodom when the sun went down in the evening, and he remained there in order to stay during the night. But no one would let him into his house. And at that time there was in Sodom a wicked man of evil plots, one skillful to do evil, and his name was Hadad. And he lifted up his eyes and saw the traveler in the street of the city, and he came to him and said, "From where do you come? And where are you going?" And the man said to him, "I am traveling from Hebron." Watch this. "I am traveling from Hebron to Elam, where I belong. And as I passed, the sun went down, and no one would allow me to enter his house, though I had bread and water, and also straw and food for my donkey. And I am lacking nothing." I am lacking nothing. You hear what he said? Y'all won't even let me into your house, and I have what I need. You know what I'm saying? I don't even need you to give me so I just need a place to stay for the night. Okay. Now, if you've been following our journey through the book of Jasher, you know that Abraham lived. Now watch this. You know that Abraham lived with Noah and Shem for a long time. He learned from them. He studied with them. Okay. Why am I bringing this up? Because in Genesis 10:22, it mentions the children of Shem. Okay. In Genesis 10:22, it mentions the children of Shem, in which one of them is Elam. All right. One of them is Elam, who is the father of the Elamites. Okay. He's the father of the Elamites. The Elamites were depicted as black, brown skin in a lot of older pictures. All right. In a lot of older pictures. Sorry, we can't talk right now. Okay. This man also came from Hebron. He was coming from Hebron. Look where he was coming from. He was coming from Hebron, which is in Canaan land, where Abraham lived. Okay, where Abraham lived. Canaan was the son of Ham, who was the father of the African nations. Did you hear what I said? Canaan was the son of Ham, who was the father of the African nation. Abraham was living in Hebron. Okay. So this guy, he just might have been an Elamite. He was going from Hebron to Elam. Okay, so he just might have been an Elamite. He just might have been a Hebrew, a black-skinned Hebrew, brown-skinned Hebrew, and they were not trying to let him into their house. You catch what I'm saying? Okay, verse 22. And Hadad answered and said to him, "All that you want shall be supplied by me, but you shall not stay in the street all night." Now, watch this evil dude. Watch how this evil guy works here. Shalom, shalom. And Hadad answered and said to him, "All that you want shall be supplied by me, but you shall not stay in the street all night." And Hadad brought him to his house, and he took off the blanket from the donkey with the rope, and he brought them to his house, and he gave the donkey straw and food while the traveler ate and drank in Hadad's house. And he stayed there that night. And in the morning, the traveler rose early to continue his journey. When Hadad said to him, "Wait, refresh your heart with the piece of bread and then go." And the man did so, and he remained with him, and they both ate and drank together during the day when the man rose up to go. So mind you, this man is tricking him to stay with him. All right, now he's plotting to do something. And Hadad said to him, "See, now the day is declining. You had better remain all night that your heart may be refreshed." And he pressed him so that he stayed there all night. And on the second day, he rose early to go away, when Hadad pressed him, saying, "Refresh your heart with a piece of bread and then go." And he remained and ate with him the second day also. And then the man rose up to continue his journey. And Hadad said to him, "See now, the day is declining. Remain with me to refresh your heart. And in the morning, rise early and go your way." And the man would not remain, but rose and saddled his donkey. And while he was saddling his donkey, the wife of Hadad said to her husband, see, this man has remained with us for 2 days, eating and drinking, and he has given us nothing. And now shall he go away with us without giving anything? And Hadad said to her, be silent, be silent. I already have this, okay? He already had something up his sleeve. And the man saddled his donkey to go, and he asked Hadad to give him the rope and blanket to tie it on the donkey. Now remember, Hadad took the rope and the blanket off when he first helped him go into his home. And Hadad said to him, what are you saying? And he said to him, that you, my master, shall give me the rope and the blanket made with dyed colors, which you laid up with you in your house to take care of. And Hadad answered the man saying, this is the interpretation of the dream. Watch this, okay? Shalom, 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 shalom. He said, this is the interpretation of your dream. The rope which you saw means that your life will be lengthened out like a cord. And having seen the blanket dyed with all kinds of colors means that you shall have a vineyard in which you will plant trees of all fruits. Now he done lost his mind. He's going completely crazy, okay? So we see another thief here. Basically, we see another thief, and this one is telling parables now. Okay, the traveler asked for his stuff back, and Hadad is telling him a parable about his stuff. Okay, watch this. So we see another thief. All right, how many people have tried to swindle you out of money? How many people have tried to swindle you out of things? You know, telling you a parable or tried to trick you into doing something you didn't want to do. The enemy is very crafty, and we use the things we like and can't get rid of to tempt us. All right, do you hear that? Not everybody means you good, and having discernment from the Ruach is very important. Having discernment from the Ruach is very important. This man is asking for his things back, and this guy is telling him that you're dreaming, okay, and I'm going to give you the interpretation. All right. Let's continue. He said, and Hadad answered the man saying, this is the interpretation of the dream. The rope you saw, the rope you saw, his rope now, the rope you saw means that your life will be lengthened out like a cord. And having seen the blanket dyed with all kinds of colors means that you shall have a vineyard in which you will plant trees of all fruit. And the traveler answered saying, not so, my master, for I was awake when I gave you the rope and also a blanket woven with dyed colors, which you took off the donkey. You took it off the donkey. I saw you. You took it off the donkey to put them aside for me. And Hadad answered and said, indeed, I have told you the interpretation of your dream. You hear this guy? Indeed, I have told you the interpretation of your dream, and it is a good dream, and this is the interpretation of it. Now the sons of men give me, now the sons of men give me 4 pieces of silver, which is my charge for interpreting dreams. And of you, I only require 3 pieces of silver. So now I'm going to charge you. I'm going to charge you for interpreting the dream that I just made up. Okay, listen, do we not see this very thing today? Do we not see this very thing today? False prophets prophesying lies, okay? Prophesying lies to the children of the Most High, asking for a certain amount of money and stealing it, prophesying the same thing to everybody they come across, okay? They have no reverence for the Father and only care to line their pockets, all right? There are people that practice this very thing. They practice how to lie and practice how to false prophesy, all right? Just so that they can make a living stealing from you. Just so they can make a living stealing from you. All right. And so now the sons of men give me 4 pieces of silver, which is my charge for interpreting dreams. And of you, I only require 3 pieces of silver. And the man was provoked at the words of Hadad, and he cried bitterly, and he brought Hadad to Sirach, judge of Sodom. And the man laid his cause before Sirach, the judge, when Hadad replied, saying, it is not so. But so the matter stands. And the judge said to the traveler, this man Hadad tells you the truth, but he is famed in the city for the accurate interpretation of the dreams. He is famed in the city for lying. Okay, how many prophets or false prophets do we see, on TV or on social media? They're famed. People know them. People call their hotlines. All right, and they're telling everybody the same prophecies. All right, they're prophet-lying. They're prophet-lying. It says, and the man cried in the word of the judge, and he said, not so, my master, for it was in the day that I gave him the rope and blanket which was on the donkey, in order to put them aside in his house. And they both disputed before the judge, and the one saying so the matter was, and the other declaring otherwise. And Hadad said to the man, give me 4 pieces of silver that I charge for my interpretations of dreams. When I was younger, they used to have, who was it? I think Dionne Warwick was doing a psychic phone call or something like that. Yeah, we had all these false prophets and psychics, that want to charge you for interpreting, prophesying something in their lives. He said, give me 4 pieces of silver that I charge for my interpretations of dreams. I will not make any allowance and give me the expense of the 4 meals that you ate in my house. Okay. Now, mind you, he told the guy that, look, I'm not going to have you stay outside at night in this city. You can come and stay here with me. All right. He invited the man in and everything. Now, mind you, this man from Elam already told him, look, I already have enough. And I don't even need your stuff. I don't need your food. I don't need anything. But the guy he had a plot. He was plotting. Now, mind you, everybody's not out to do you good. Okay. Everybody's not out to do you good. And some people will give you things with an ulterior motive. All right. With an ulterior motive. It says, and the man said to Hadad, truly, I will pay you for what I ate in your house. You hear what I'm saying? Truly, I will pay you for what I ate in your house. Only give me the rope and blanket which you laid up in your house. I'm going to pay you anyway. Look, I was going to give you something anyway. I was going to pay you anyway. Just give me what I came with. All right? Don't try to steal what I came with. And Hadad replied before the judge and said to the man, did I not tell you the interpretation of your dream? He is stuck with this. Shalom, shalom. He is stuck with this. All right? He's taking it to the fullest. And Hadad replied before the judge and said to the man, did I not tell you the interpretation of your dream? The rope means that your days shall be prolonged like a cord, and the blanket that you will have a vineyard in which you will plant all kinds of fruit trees. This is the proper interpretation of your dream. Now give me the 4 pieces of silver that I require as a compensation, for I will make you no allowance. And the man cried at the words of Hadad, and they both crawled before the judge. And the judge gave orders to his servants, who drove them harshly from the house. And they went away crawling from the judge when the people of Sodom heard them. And they gathered about them and cried out against the stranger. And they drove him harshly from the city. So he couldn't get justice. He couldn't get justice from this crooked judge of Sodom. But even knowing that they had a judge there makes me believe that it's not his first time coming through this city. Okay. But when you're in a place you don't belong and expect for things to go right. Do you know what I'm saying? When you're in a place where you don't belong and expecting for things to go right, you're asking for trouble. Okay. The people gathered together and drove him out. But thank the Most High, they didn't do worse. Okay. Even though he lost what he came with, he was able to walk away. Not everybody is afforded the opportunity to walk out of a bad situation. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody's afforded the opportunity to walk out of a bad situation. When we stay in a situation we know we need to rise up and get out of quick, we put ourselves in jeopardy for other bad things to happen. The enemy kept him there eating and drinking. And they had to be drinking liquor, okay, in order for him to stay all those days, okay? When he got up in the morning to leave, looking back at how Abraham handled this, looking back how Abraham handled his visitors and how they handled theirs is a perfect example. It's a perfect example of how judgment can come to bless you or curse you. All right? How judgment could come to bless you or curse you. It said in verse 42, and the man continued his journey on his donkey with bitterness of being, lamenting and weeping. And while he was going along, he wept at what had befallen him in the corrupt city of Sodom. And he wept at what befallen him in the corrupt city of Sodom. All right. Judgment was coming to the people of Sodom and Gomorrah. All right. Judgment was coming to the people of Sodom and Gomorrah. And they didn't have a clue. All right. We see two different cases here. We saw how Abraham rose up and he received the people. And we saw how these evil people received the man of Elam. All right. Judgment was coming to the people of Sodom and Gomorrah. And they didn't have a clue. Okay. Today, people are walking around doing what they want to do, changing the Father's word, not adhering to his warnings, and judgments is on the way. Okay. Judgment is coming right to their doorsteps. Judgment is walking right through the city and may even stop in for a meal and some rest. And depending upon your reaction will determine if you receive the blessing or the curse. Don't follow the Lord's sheep down the path of destruction. Okay? Because they want to live separate from the Most High and make their own rules up, and they want to make up things. Okay? Make up the way they want to live. He's an Elohim that doesn't lie, and who breaks and those who break his laws and choose to live in a state of sinfulness place judgment on themselves. All right? Those who choose to live in a state of sinfulness place judgment on themselves. Shalom, shalom, hallelujah. He is an Elohim that doesn't lie. And those who break his laws and choose to live in a state of sinfulness place judgment on themselves. That was the end of chapter 18. We will return on next Wednesday for chapter 19. Make sure to join us on Saturday morning for Shabbat study as well. Shabbat, shalom, 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 shalom. Okay. In closing, may it be thy will, Yah Elohim and Elohim of our fathers, to make us familiar with thy Torah and to cause us to adhere to thy precepts. Lead us not into sin, transgression, iniquity, temptation, or disgrace. Let not the evil impulse have power over us. Keep us far from an evil man and a bad companion. Make us cling to the good impulse and to good deeds, and bend our will to submit to thee. Grant us today and every day grace, favor, and mercy. Grace, favor, and mercy, both in thy sight and in the sight of all men. And bestow loving kindness on us all. Bless us, Yahweh, who bestows loving kindness on your people, Israel. This is Joseph B'Nei Ysrayl for the House of B'Nei Ysrayl, where the chosen of the Most High dwell. We know who we are. We know who he made us to be. And we are rising from the ashes. If you're on YouTube, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Friend us on Facebook and Instagram. Go to www.YHWHforever3.com and support the store. There's some great things there for you and your family. May Yah bless you and keep you. May Yahweh make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May Yahweh lift up his countenance upon thee and give you shalom. Hallelujah. This has been your morning brew. I hope it was a blessing to you. I love the book of Jasher. It's a great story. And may the Father continue to show us and bless us, and may we continue to learn his precepts, his words, and continue to obey his laws and his statutes and his commandments, because judgment is coming. Okay? Whether we want to believe it or not, judgment is coming. Okay? This has been your boy, House of B'Nei Ysrayl. I love y'all. Shalom, shalom.
come. And when I call your name up from the hill.
This is credit to John Bidden. John Bidden. This is called The Secret Place. This is called The Secret Place.
I want to be where you are. 'Cause you are where I am.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah, brother. Hallelujah, Ahkotee. Shalom, shalom. Shalom, shalom, everybody. I hope you have a great day. Enjoy it. Prosper. May the Most High continue to cover you and bless you. It's supposed to be a beautiful day. We plan to enjoy it. Hallelujah. Shalom, shalom.
And when I call your name up from the hill, YAH-Lorvins, you come. Said I want to be with you. Oh, you're where I am. I want to be where you are where I am.
Hallelujah, Donovan Ben Yehuda. That is a crazy quote from my elders. The old folks used to say, sin will take you further than you want to go, keep you longer than you want to stay, and cost you more than you can afford to pay. That's an amazing quote. That's amazing. Hallelujah.
Said I will dwell in the secret place.
The truth, not the truth. That's funny, There's so many great stories here, man. There's so many great stories in the book of Jasher, man. We just gotta pull them out of there. Hallelujah. Yeah. We're gonna continue on with it, man. As long as the Most High allows us to, we're gonna continue to bring them on. Hallelujah.
We will dwell.
Shabbat study is going to be an amazing one too. Same time, same place, 9 a.m. Saturday morning.
We will dwell. We will dwell. We will abide under the shadow.
Shalom, shalom on Instagram. Thanks for joining in. We will see you back on Saturday. On Saturday before Shabbat study. 9 a.m. 9 a.m. See y'all guys. Love y'all. Shalom, shalom.
We will dwell. You are with us. You rise and you stand.